25 billion transistors. That's what's inside Apple's M3 chip, released in 2023. A chip smaller than your thumbnail, containing 25 billion individual switching components, each one smaller than a virus. But here's the question nobody seems to ask. Why? Why does a processor need 25 billion of anything? What are all those transistors actually doing? What requires that many? The answer reveals something profound about the nature of computation itself, and why making computers faster is one of the most complex engineering challenges in human history. A transistor is, at its most basic level, a switch. It has three connections. Apply voltage to one of them, the gate, and current flows between the other two. Remove the voltage, and current stops. 1, 0. That's it. That's the entire function of a transistor. So how do you build a computer from billions of on-off switches? You combine them into logic gates. A logic gate is a small group of transistors, typically 2 to 6, wired together so that the combination of their inputs produces a specific output according to a logical rule. And an gate outputs 1 only if both inputs are 1. An OR gate outputs 1 if either input is 1. A NOT gate simply inverts its input. These three basic gates, AND, OR, NOT, and their combinations can represent any logical operation that exists. Any comparison, any calculation, any decision. From logic gates, you build larger structures. Adders that can add binary numbers, registers that can store values temporarily, multiplexers that can route signals between components. From those structures, you build functional units. Arithmetic logic units that perform calculations, memory controllers that manage data access, decoders that interpret instructions. And from those functional units, you build a processor. Every layer of complexity is simply a combination of the layer below it. And at the very bottom of every layer, in every processor ever made, is the same fundamental unit. A transistor switching on and off. So why do you need billions? Because a modern processor doesn't do one thing at a time. It does thousands of things simultaneously. A high-end processor core today can execute multiple instructions per clock cycle, a concept called superscalar execution. To do this, it contains multiple arithmetic units, multiple memory access ports, and complex scheduling hardware that can look several instructions ahead and identify which ones can run in parallel. That scheduling hardware alone requires millions of transistors. Then there's cache memory. Cache is ultra-fast memory built directly into the processor die, sitting as close as physically possible to the execution units to eliminate the delay of fetching data from main RAM. A modern processor might have 3 levels of cache, L1, L2, and L3, with the L3 cache alone containing many megabytes of storage. Memory storage in transistors requires roughly 6 transistors per bit of data. A 32 megabyte L3 cache requires approximately 1.5 billion transistors just for storage, before any logic for reading or writing that data. Modern processors also include multiple cores, complete independent processing units sharing the same chip. An Apple M3 Pro has 12 cores. Each core contains hundreds of millions of transistors. Multiply across all cores, add the shared cache, add the memory controller, add the neural engine, add the GPU, add power management circuits, add security hardware, and you arrive at your 25 billion. Every transistor is there for a reason. None of them are waste. In 1965, Intel co-founder Gordon Moore observed that the number of transistors on integrated circuits had been doubling roughly every 2 years, and predicted this trend would continue. Moore's law, as it became known, became the guiding principle of the entire semiconductor industry for 50 years. The mechanism of this doubling was miniaturization. Make each transistor smaller, and you can fit more of them in the same space, or fit the same number in a smaller space, reducing the distances electrons travel, increasing speed, reducing power consumption. In 1971, the Intel 4004, the first commercially available microprocessor, contained 2,300 transistors. Each transistor was about 10 micrometers wide. Today's most advanced processors are manufactured at 3 nanometers, roughly 3,000 times smaller than the 4004's transistors. At 3 nanometers, you are packing transistors that are approximately 15 silicon atoms wide. You are engineering at the atomic scale. But we are approaching the physical limits of this miniaturization. Quantum effects, specifically quantum tunneling, where electrons can spontaneously pass through barriers they classically shouldn't be able to, become increasingly problematic below about 2 nanometers. The transistors become so small that electrons don't behave the same way they do at human visible scales. The rules of classical physics give way to quantum mechanics, and your switch starts spontaneously switching without being told to. The industry is responding with three-dimensional architectures, stacking transistors vertically rather than just making them smaller horizontally. Intel's 3D stacking, TSMC's N2 process, Samsung's GAA transistors, all are attempts to continue scaling beyond the two-dimensional limits of flat chip design. 25 billion transistors. Each one a switch. Each switch a bit. Each bit part of a word. Each word part of an instruction. Each instruction part of a program. Each program part of a user experience. The iPhone in your pocket performs approximately 15 trillion operations per second. The first programmable electronic computer, ENIAC, built in 1945, weighed 27 tons, filled an entire room, and performed about 5,000 operations per second. We went from 5,000 to 15 trillion in 80 years. And we did it one transistor at a time, making each one a little smaller, packing them a little tighter, finding the limits and then finding a way past them. The transistor is not a piece of technology. It is the foundation on which the entire digital world was built, is still being built, and will continue to be built for as long as we can keep making them smaller.